recently something unusual happened where the past 2 weeks I've had 2 friends come visit that have never been out of America. Like pimpin', they fresh out. And it's so crazy listening to their perspective and their culture shocks. And I'm gonna be honest, they named a couple of things that I never even thought of. Side note, windmill. So recently I had 2 friends come and visit within the past 2 weeks. Both of them are American and both of them have never been outside the country. And needless to say, there have been quite a few interesting culture shocks that they've expressed to me while they were here as well as when they left. Side note, what is going on with this weather, man? It's all cold. Look, and unlike the other day where this was like packed, everybody was like, nah, you know what? I'm going to work. But yeah, man, it is always interesting to hear how much of a trip it is for people who leave America and come and visit Europe. Like, it's such a trip hearing about it because sometimes it's things that you know, and also a lot of times though it's things that you don't really notice anymore because you've been here for so long. Perfect example of this is how one of my friends mentioned how when he came, he saw people, guys, doubling up on bikes and even scooters. Like, you know, the guy will pull up on a scooter and another guy will get right behind him and just chill, get on his phone and do it. You know, they'll ride away, right? And the same thing goes for bikes. You'll see, it's normal, especially with these new fat tire bikes, it's normal that you'll see a couple of guys doubling up on a fat tire bike, one sitting behind the other. And this is completely normal. Matter of fact, since I've been traveling for so long, I never really noticed any, like, you know, it just seemed normal to me because you see it in a lot of different places. Except for in America. And I'm being dead serious too, man. This is something that would have to be one of the weirdest things if you've seen it in the States. And my friend actually pointed this out. He was like, man, it was so trippy to see guys just doubling up on bikes and scooters and mopeds and even motorcycles. And I was like, what do you mean? Because again, I've been traveling for so long. I've seen it everywhere. I mean, even when he brought this to my attention, it made me like think for a second, like, why would this be weird? And it's like, oh, I see. People kind of worry about the wrong things in America. So this was extremely strange for my friend because he's just never seen it before, because something like this would turn heads in America, like for real. And I mean, not in a good way. And we don't need to get into the why. But it's interesting because what he said next was something that I've mentioned before, which is, why do we even care in the first place? This has nothing to do with anybody or anybody else's life. It has no effect on anybody. And he even said the same thing. He was like, it was weird to him because he found himself caring about something that had nothing to do with him. And he noticed that he did it a lot in the States. Oh snap, we getting hot. Dang, the sun is coming out. Holy cow. But yeah, basically, people just don't care. Like, it has nothing to do with anybody. So why care about it? And then my other friend had another experience. And he even said something along the lines of, man, it just seems like you could just kind of be you, basically. Like, no one cares what you're wearing. No one cares how you look. As long as you're not causing problems, you could just be you. And he found it so refreshing that just no one cares about these things. And to both of them, it was such a relief. And that's something that, again, this is what I have expressed before, just how it's nice to be like just normal. Like, it's nice to be not cared about or looked at a certain way based off of the way you look. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice. It's also nice to not worry about things that don't matter or things being shoved in your face that don't matter. And it's so interesting to me to see how just something like guys doubling up on bikes mattered, like made my friend second guess, like, why do I care about a lot of things that I care about when it has nothing to do with me, my family, my job, nothing. And I do want to make myself clear, I am not saying that people here don't judge or make fun of other people. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I've noticed it's usually a child's game, meaning that it's usually by teens or the younger crowd. Grown adults, they don't care. Like, no one's gonna look at you, what you're wearing, and then behind your back talk to their friends, their wife, their husband, or whatever about it. Like, there's just so many other ways to be using your time that can be more useful or productive. So many more ways. Versus in the States, this stuff is, I ain't gonna lie, it be on blast. Like, you'll see it on TV shows, you'll see it when you're at work, it's in your work environment, it's also where you go out with friends, you'll see other people making fun of you. Like, it's a big part of the culture to care about what others don't have or do have, or how they do things versus how you do things, or how you look versus how they look. That is a norm. That's like a part of the American culture, even though it makes no difference in your life. Like, not even a little bit. Which is why it was so interesting when both of my friends brought this to my attention in different ways. And it like blew my mind, man. Which is why I feel like it's so crazy that both of my friends brought this to my attention. Like, mind blowing that they really liked how no one cared. Like, just no one cared. Like, they just went along with their life. But again, it's funny, even though they had both different experiences, they had the same feeling. The overall result was no one cares, and why should we care? Why do we care about the things that we do care about? Okay, what is going on? I completely changed. Look at that, man. Look, this is the same day. One side of Harlem is all dark, the other side is like sunny in a mug. Yeah, it's good, thank you. Totes now. Oh, side note, we gotta back up. Look at that view, man. Look at that one. I actually like this side just a little bit better because it just looks just a little bit nicer to me. Even though, I mean, side note too, it does looks like it's getting dark again. Gotta always stop and appreciate the views. And now something else that one of my friends brought up that's very similar to something else the other friend brought up was the fact that he was talking with his friend. He's known this guy forever, but he was talking with his friend and they went out, they had drinks, and they met other people and they hung out with his friends. And he noticed that not a lot of people are working like all day, every day, as well as the weekends. So he just asked, like, do people not have multiple jobs? And then he said the whole group looked at him and was like, why would we have multiple jobs? Like, what do we need multiple jobs for? And well, he explained that in the States, a lot of people, even if they have careers or they're adults, they work 2 to 3 jobs. And they do this just to be able to basically get by and stay a little bit ahead of the curve with just the cost of living, their rent, the cost of food, all this other stuff. And no joke, he said his friend, the guy that he knew for a long time, forever, as well as the whole group that he just met, was like, no. Like, flat out, no one is working like 3 jobs. Unless they're in like college where they're running programs or something like that, or internships. A lot of people don't work multiple jobs. I mean, unless they're younger. And now my other friend had a very similar experience visiting family in Europe as well. And he legit told me that it almost felt like his family member just didn't work, even though they did. They're not working crazy hours, they're not working on the weekends, nothing. And he also saw how much time his family members had to spend with each other and to just hang out with him and show him around, even though they had full-time jobs. And again, this is a different experience, but the culture shock is the same in the sense of like, people have time and people don't. They ain't working like 3 jobs just to get by. And man, this was such a shock for my friend because he's like, Sky, man, listen, man, you know how many jobs I have? I have 1 full-time job and then I have 2 part-time jobs. So while he was here, it shocked him just how much time people had for themselves versus when he looks back on himself, he's working 3 jobs. This is common. Matter of fact, it's the new norm in the States now that you pretty much need a full-time job to help you with benefits, and then you need something on the side to basically help you pay for anything extra like groceries and save a little bit of money. But basically, yeah, you need 2 jobs. I mean, depending on where you live, you might need 3. Look, I'm just Super Saiyan. Look, the shirt says it. Just Super Saiyan. You know what? I need to calm down. People are looking at me. Oh man, it's so crazy that I never really thought about that whole, yo. See, dude, I never really thought about the whole working multiple job things. I mentioned it in one video about how, I believe I mentioned how people do work multiple jobs here, but I mostly meant like younger people. I've seen younger people work multiple jobs because they're in college or they're in high school and they're doing other programs, which is, I mean, that seems normal to me, but not so much working multiple jobs. Like I'll be honest, I do not know any adults that work multiple jobs. Maybe one, I'm trying to remember if he does, but yeah, I don't really know anybody who works multiple jobs. I mean, if you watch any of my older videos and know my story, like I worked multiple jobs in high school and through college and even when I moved to LA. But it was like, it's not that I was bad with money, it was just that I was helping a lot. I was helping out a lot with my family as well as I lived on my own, and I was also trying to do these big moves. So I definitely understand working multiple jobs. It's just funny that that was never a culture shock that I've noticed here, that a lot of adults don't work multiple jobs. Side note, whose little car is that, man? Man, I see that little car all the time parked right here. It's right next to the hotel. Man, I wonder if they'll give me a ride. And now there were a couple of other culture shocks that they've experienced as Americans traveling like out of the country for the first time. Like one of them, my friend was like, Sky, like how in the world, like wait, how in the world is there no ice? Like why don't people have ice here? Where's the ice? He was like, how do people drink water warm? I was like, well, it's usually refrigerated. He was talking about how he needs his soda watered down with the ice and the whole thing. So that really shocked him. Something else too that shocked one of the other friends which was the food. And that's also, that one to me, that's one not surprising. But yeah, they really, both friends commented on how good the food was wherever they went in Europe. They were like, man, you taste it as soon as you eat something. They've also commented on how the mindset is less materialistic over here in Europe. But I think one of the ones that they mentioned that really stood out to me was how the vibe felt in Europe versus the vibe in the States. And to me, this is actually an interesting one because they both use words like heavy when they got back, because this is what we talked about after their visit and they returned back to America, was they both felt some form of heaviness. And at first I was just like, are you sure it's not the food? Like, like getting back to the American food? But no, seriously, they both just mentioned how the vibe felt just off. Like it doesn't feel like that's how people should live. Like that's not the normal way of living. Stressful and unsafe and always needing to be turned on. And I think this actually makes sense considering that once you get to America, like, you know, you come here, you don't need a car, you using public transportation, you're around a bunch of people. People are actively, you see people actively outside, walking, biking, whatever the case may be. Side note, my friend commented on the bikes. He was like, holy cow, I've never seen, Sky Money, I ain't never seen as many bikes in my life. But yeah, you see people out, you see people biking, you see people walking, you see people on public transportation, you're interacting with so many different people every day, and so many other good feelings, right? And then you go back, you go home, and remember, this is your home. You go back, and you're bombarded with like things always trying to sell you. All the news is on all the time. People only want to talk about certain things, as well as you're in a car all the time as well. And when it comes to work, well, it's not really working because they like what they do. It's the fact that when they're off, they're still thinking about work. They feel like they're always at work, and when they're not at work, they're tired and they gotta hop back in this car, which is stressful, which is time consuming. And then this also turns into like safety. Like they don't feel safe because you don't see anybody out in a lot of places unless you're like going to a place to go downtown. You gotta drive somewhere to go for a walk because nobody walks in the neighborhood. And this is something that I actually understand quite well because when I go back to the States often, and when I do, it does feel, oh, I almost got hit by this bike, look. It would have been my fault, not paying attention. Imagine coming from a place like this, right? where you're seeing people. You see people every day. You see people sitting outside. You see people inside. You get on public transportation and you're seeing people. The houses here are even closer. So we're living closer together to other people that we don't really know, but we do know because we see them every day. And I mean, just that alone, just taking away all of this and just isolating yourself in a box, that alone gives you that vibe. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even that it's not that safe or anything like that. It's just that you're alone a lot of the time. I believe that people genuinely like to be around other people. I mean, look, hey, that's just me. I'm just super saiyan. Oh, look, side note, look. The windmill is on, even though there's not, I don't know where that sun went. That sun came and just dipped. But yeah, the windmill is on. Come on, man. Come on.